on the Milwaukee side. Okay, they win tonight against the Clippers, but Bobby Portis now 25 games, Chuck, suspension. Because what his agent has said was an unintentional, an honest mistake, that he took a pain medication called Tramadol, thinking he was taking a pain medication called Toradol, which is approved, but the other one is not. So 25 game suspension, and there was a lengthy statement from his agent. He said Bobby Portis is absolutely not a drug abuser. He made a mistake, took a pill that unknowingly he should not have taken.
What's up, basketball fans? Welcome back to the channel where we break down the biggest stories in the NBA. And today, we have an absolute shocker that no one saw coming. Milwaukee Bucks forward Bobby Portis Jr. has just been slapped with a massive 25-game suspension for violating the NBA/NBPA Anti-Drug Program. That's right, one of the most passionate and fiery players in the league is now facing serious consequences, and this news is sending shockwaves through the entire basketball world. This isn't just about one player, it's about the integrity of the game, the impact on the Bucks season, and what this could mean for Bobby Portis' future. How did this happen? What does it mean for Milwaukee's playoff hopes? And could this suspension have even bigger consequences for the league as a whole? So, here's what went down. The league officially announced that Bobby Portis tested positive for Tramadol, a banned substance under the NBA/NBPA Anti-Drug Program. And because of that, he's now facing a brutal 25-game suspension without pay. That means Portis will be out of action for more than a quarter of the season, leaving a massive hole in Milwaukee's rotation. And here's the kicker. By the time he's eligible to return, the Bucks will have only 4 games left before the playoffs. That's a tough break for a team that's been battling for seeding in the East. Bucks fans, I know you've got to be feeling this one. Portis is a key piece of that squad, a relentless competitor, a defensive presence, and an emotional leader. Losing him for this long, it's a huge blow. But what does this really mean for the Bucks? How will they adjust without him? And how did this even happen in the first place? Let's dive deeper. Bartelstein didn't hold back in his defense of Portis. In his statement, he made it crystal clear that this was not an intentional violation. And I quote, "Bobby unintentionally took a pain medication called Tramadol, thinking he was taking Toradol. Bobby Portis is absolutely not a drug abuser." Strong words from his agent, and he's standing firm on the claim that this was just an unfortunate mistake. But despite that, the NBA didn't budge. They still hit Portis with a full 25-game suspension, no exceptions. So the big question now is, was this the right call? Should the league have considered the circumstances, or is a rule, no matter the intent? Some argue that the NBA is just being consistent with its drug policy, while others think they should have shown some flexibility, especially since Tramadol was only recently banned. Now let's talk about the impact, because this is a major blow for Milwaukee. Bobby Portis isn't just a role player. He's a crucial part of this team's identity. This season, he's been putting up 13.7 points and 8.3 rebounds per game, bringing that signature energy, toughness, and grit every single night. And let's not forget, Portis played a massive role in the Bucks' 2021 championship run, helping deliver their first NBA title in 50 years. His passion and hustle make him a fan favorite, and his ability to crash the boards, stretch the floor, and bring intensity on defense makes him irreplaceable in Milwaukee's rotation. Losing him for 25 games isn't just a short-term issue. It could seriously affect the Bucks' seeding in the East, their chemistry, and even their momentum heading into the playoffs. So how does Milwaukee adjust without him, and can they stay in contention while he serves his suspension? The Bucks are currently sitting at 29-24, holding onto the 5th seed in the Eastern Conference. But with Bobby Portis sidelined for the next couple of months, the big question is, how will this impact their playoff push? Milwaukee was already struggling to find consistency before the All-Star break, and now, with the competition in the East getting even tougher, this suspension couldn't have come at a worse time. Teams like the Heat, Knicks, and Pacers are right behind them in the standings, and if the Bucks start slipping, they could find themselves dropping into dangerous territory before the postseason even begins. Losing Portis means losing a key piece of their frontcourt rotation. His rebounding, interior defense, and second-unit scoring are all crucial. So, can the Bucks weather the storm without him? Or will this suspension cost them a higher seed, and maybe even home court advantage in the playoffs? Let's dive into what this means for Milwaukee moving forward. Now let's talk about timing, because Portis' suspension means he'll miss nearly the rest of the regular season. He won't return until Milwaukee's final 4 games, which would be crucial depending on where they stand in the playoff race. Here's what the Bucks' closing stretch looks like. April 8, a showdown with the Minnesota Timberwolves, one of the toughest defensive teams in the league. April 10, a matchup against the New Orleans Pelicans, a team fighting for positioning in the West. April 11 and April 13, a back-to-back series against the Detroit Pistons, games that should be winnable but aren't guaranteed. If the Bucks are still battling for a higher seed, Portis' return could be just in time to make a difference. But by then, will Milwaukee still be in a position to compete for home court advantage? Or will the damage from his absence already be done? And of course, social media is absolutely buzzing about this right now. Fans are split down the middle, some are calling the suspension unfair, arguing that the NBA should show some leniency when it's clear that Portis made an honest mistake. After all, Tramadol is a substance that was only recently added to the banned list, and the whole situation could have been a simple mix-up. On the other hand, there are plenty of people who believe that the rules are the rules and Portis should have been more careful, especially considering consequences. They argue that players need to be fully aware of what they're putting in their bodies, regardless of whether it's intentional or not. So, where do you stand on this? Was the suspension too harsh, or did the NBA have no choice but to enforce it? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I want to hear what you think. Bottom line, this is a tough break for Bobby Portis and the Bucks. But do you think this suspension was too harsh? Or should the NBA have been more flexible? Let's get the conversation going. And don't forget, hit that like button, subscribe for more NBA news, and I'll see you guys in the next one.